In the timing assignment, you want to show that you know how to speed up and slow down action in an animation, and I'll show you how to do that. And we will use Stop Motion Pro because that tends to be the easiest. Now, you could use any animation pretty much that you've created, any section of that, but using the pivot one where there's clear impacts makes it easier to make the different versions. So if you have a pivot animation, you just go File, Export Animation, and in this dialog box where it says GIF down here, you would change that to individual frames and then give them a name and hit save, and it will export it. And if we just choose here a file name, I'm just going to say 1 and say save, then it will give you an option of what kind of image you want to save. So you can save PNGs, for example, they work just fine. And click OK, and it will export the entire animation. Now the entire animation might be too large, so then you can cut it down to about 20 frames or so, which I've done here. So I've just got 20 frames of one animation from one of our students. So that once I have these frames selected and they're sitting in a folder, then I can go to my Stop Motion Pro and load that, start a new project. I'm going to call it Timing Example, and I'll say OK, so it's going to create that project for me. And then I need to import those frames. So I'm going to go File, and I'm going to say Import Image Files. I'll go navigate back to that folder where I've saved all of these pivot files that I need. I just click one, press Ctrl A, select all of them, say Open. It will give me an entire list of images, say OK. That will bring in all of my frames. Now, the animation, when you created it in Pivot, you probably used a frame rate of probably about 12 frames per second or so. So let's see what it looks like at that frame rate once it's imported. So the default here is 24. So let's go down to about 12 frames per second and hit play on that. So you can see sort of the speed that the animation was in. Let's start from the beginning. Just that short little segment, right? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the speed to 30 frames per second. And then play it. So it's very fast. Now to get it back to the normal speed, now we're going to set up for that. For the assignment, you need 3 versions. One at the regular speed that you animated it. One where you speed up the action and then slow it down again. And the last one where after you slow down the action after an impact or after an event and get to the point that it pretty much comes to a complete stop. So the way to do this, we're going to go into our editor. So we have our 20 frames. Now, because we increased that frame rate, to get back to our normal rate, I'm going to select all of the frames, click the first one, Shift, click the last one, gets all of them. And then I'm going to duplicate this set of frames. So I'm going to click on here, repeat selected frames, and I'm going to click on that, and then it's going to, how many times do I want to repeat that? So I want to repeat that 3 times because I want to have 4 frames each, right? I'm going to click OK. So now you can see that it's added 3 more frames in between the ones that were highlighted. So now every frame is repeated 4 times. Now, I need 3 versions of this video, right? So I'm going to click on the first frame. I'm going to hold my Shift key, click on the last frame. And now this time I want to repeat the entire sequence. So I'm going to click on that and I want to repeat it twice and say OK. So now it will make 3 versions of that for me. So you can see 1 version, second version, third version. Okay, so I am going to just do a little trick so I know where my different versions start. I'm going to mark this frame here, and I'm going to actually pretend I don't want to see it, and then click on my viewer that shows me my marked frames. So this way, I know exactly where my animation starts off and starts up again. And then I can do the same thing for the second row, so that I will look at where does my animation start up again. And I can see it is right here. Right here is the other frame that also starts my next one. So I know I have my first segment that plays once at the regular frame rate. I don't have to do anything with that. I'm going to use my second set to speed up the action, and I'm going to do the last set to slow down the action. Now, to speed up the actions, I would need less frames per second. So seeing that every frame is repeated 4 times, I'm going to not touch it in the beginning. I'm going to wait until we get to the point of impact. So the point of impact is about halfway through. So that hits around here, if I'm not mistaken. This is our point of impact right here. So these 4 frames here are our point of impact right there, right? These 4 frames here. So what I'm going to do here in these 4 frames, after the impact, I'm going to take 1 frame and I'm going to cancel that out. And then for my next set, I'm going to take 2 frames and I'm going to cancel them out. I'm going to shift both of those and cancel those out. And then the following set, again, I'm going to take 2 frames and I'm going to cancel them out. Then the last one, I'm going to take 3 frames and cancel them out. And do that one more time, take 3 frames and cancel them out. And then I'm going to go back to 2 frames to cancel out. And 2 frames to cancel out. And last one, 1 frame to cancel out. And I'm always counting 4, right? So I always do them in sets of 4s because I know that that's my 1 set of 4, my 1 set of 4, 1 set of 4, 1 set of 4 here, 1 set of 4, 1 set of 4, last set of 4, last set of 4, and then I'm back to regular speed. And here my section ends. So now if I go back to our viewer, so let's go back to the animation part. And if we go to the very beginning of our animation, I can use my slider to go back to the very beginning part. Go to our first frame here, and I'm going to play it. So you'll see it play normal speed. Next time you will see it speed up. You can see after impact it speeds up, and then the third one is the normal speed again. So the third one is the one that I want to slow down. So to slow down the animation, I need to add frames. So again, I want to do that after the impact. So I'm going to wait till I get my 4 frames. Again, here are my 4 frames where the impact happens. Now I don't want to duplicate all of that. I'm just going to add a little bit. So I'm going to go to my 4th frame here, and I'm going to duplicate that frame, and I'm just going to add 1 frame and say okay. So it's added my 1 frame. And then I'm going to go to my next frame, and I'm going to take that one, and I'm going to add to that one. I'm going to repeat those frames, and I'm going to repeat that twice and say okay. It's added that. Then I'm going to, again, I need to jump 4 forward, actually 6 forward now, right? And I'm going to go to that frame, and I'm going to say, okay, on this one, I am now going to add 3 frames. So I'm going to repeat that one with 3. 1, 2, 3. Actually, it's 4, 3. Say okay. So now I need to jump 7 frames forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm into the next piece of the animation. And if it's hard to see, you can always take your slider, make this larger, so you have a little bit better handle on seeing where the different slides change, so you get an idea of where our next frame is. So if we're in here, I'm going to go to the end of that one. Oops, and I'm going to add 5 frames on that one. So I'm going to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 4 actually, this one. Say okay, so it's going to repeat those frames for me. So then I'm going to say, okay, this is where the action changes again. This one, I'm going to add 5 frames. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Say okay. And you notice that by making this larger, it's much easier to see where I'm on to the next frame. So I can see here we go, and this is the next one down. I'm going to add 6 frames here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Say okay. All right, and then again, I can look through where is the next one here. Again, there's 4 frames currently, and I want to add 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. All right, so let's add more frames, and again, it's thinking about it for a second here. Again, I can see where does my action change. Here it goes into my second to last frame, and I will add 8 frames to that one. 8 frames to that, and I can just do 8, say okay, and now it's added a whole bunch, and I go to the very last one, and I'm going to add, because I want it to basically freeze at that frame, I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to say 25 and say okay, but I don't think you're going to notice much difference because it's going to freeze on the last frame anyway when the animation stops, but we'll do that just for example. So if you had a last slide where you said like end or something, that you could add that in. So now if we go back and we look at this, so again, I want to take my slider, go to the very first frame in my animation. So I'm on frame 1 to start, hit play. So first time it's going to play normal. Second time it speeds up. Third time after the impact, it slows down and goes to a stop. Right? That's our full animation. And that's really all there is to it. And that will allow you to make those changes in any other animation as well. Just a short little exercise.